Paul Heyman has finally fallen. After years of loyalty to the tribal chief, the wise man has aligned himself with Roman Reigns' greatest rival, Seth Rollins. But now, in a shocking backstage moment captured on video, Heyman is on his knees, begging Roman for forgiveness. They say loyalty in WWE is earned through blood, sacrifice, and time. But in the world of Roman Reigns, loyalty is sacred. And betrayal? It's unforgivable. Tonight, the wrestling world is in absolute shock, because the man who once called Roman his tribal chief, the man who stood at his side through victories and wars, was seen on his knees, begging. Paul Heyman, the legendary wise man, once the brain behind the Bloodline Empire, reduced to a desperate shell, pleading with the very man he stabbed in the back. The image alone was enough to paralyze the WWE universe. But what happened? Why did Heyman betray Roman? And more hauntingly, why is he now groveling for mercy? This isn't just a wrestling storyline. This is a saga of power, fear, and raw human emotion. Because when Paul Heyman aligned himself with Seth Rollins, the architect of Roman's original betrayal back in the Shield, he didn't just betray Roman Reigns. He betrayed the foundation of everything they built together. And now, for the first time in years, Paul Heyman is facing consequences not in the form of storyline retribution, but in the cold, furious stare of a tribal chief who has nothing left to lose. To understand this moment, the image of Heyman trembling at the feet of Reigns in a silent SmackDown locker room, you have to go back. Back to the summer of 2020. WWE was without fans. The lights were dim. And Roman Reigns re-emerged from the shadows after months of absence, not just as a superstar, but as something darker, something more powerful. And flanking him was Paul Heyman. It was a shocking alliance at the time. The very man who had once stood with Brock Lesnar now served Roman Reigns. Together, they crafted one of the most dominant reigns in WWE history. Roman became the Universal Champion. Then Undisputed Champion. And Paul Heyman became the voice behind the empire, the mastermind. The wise man. For 3 years, the Bloodline wasn't just a faction, it was an institution. Championships, main events, dominance on both Raw and SmackDown. The Usos, Solo Sikoa, even Sami Zayn, all orbiting the gravitational force of Roman Reigns. And at the heart of it all stood Paul Heyman. His whispered counsel guided Roman through war after war. His words bent narratives. His strategy dismantled challengers. He was, in every sense of the word, indispensable. But all empires fall. Whispers of discontent began to surface after WrestleMania 40. Roman Reigns, still powerful, had begun to appear vulnerable. First came the loss to Cody Rhodes. Then came the fracture within the Bloodline. The Usos gone. Solo Sikoa forging his own path. Rumors swirled backstage. Was Paul Heyman truly still aligned with Roman? Or was he hedging his bets? Fans speculated. Heyman's expressions grew more unreadable. His absences more frequent. And then, the unthinkable happened. On a rainy Monday Night Raw, as Seth Rollins stood triumphant in the ring, surrounded by the new Money in the Bank faction, Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, and a newly rebranded, darker Sami Zayn, the lights dimmed. And walking down the ramp, head lowered, was Paul Heyman. Silence fell. The audience didn't cheer. They didn't boo. They just stared. And when Heyman stepped into that ring and extended his hand to Rollins, the WWE universe collectively gasped. For over a decade, Seth Rollins had been Roman Reigns' deepest scar. The man who shattered the Shield. The man Roman could never fully forgive. And now, Paul Heyman, the man who had called Roman my tribal chief with religious fervor, had chosen him. Social media exploded. Clips of the moment went viral. Hashtags like #Heyman traitor and #Bloodline collapse trended worldwide. WWE superstars posted cryptic reactions. And Roman Reigns? He didn't say a word. 4 days. Weeks. Not a single promo. No social media statement. Only silence. The kind of silence that screams louder than any chair shot. Backstage sources began leaking fragments of what really happened. They said Heyman had been working both sides for months. That after Roman's WrestleMania loss, Heyman panicked. He saw the bloodline crumbling and sought safety. Rollins offered him power again. A seat at the table. Influence. And maybe, just maybe, revenge. Revenge for years of being spoken to like a servant. Of being threatened. Of being used. To some, it made sense. To others, it was betrayal on a biblical scale. And then came the footage. Leaked by a backstage crew member, the clip showed Roman Reigns alone in a dimly lit locker room after a SmackDown taping. Sweat on his face. Silence in the air. And then the door creaked open. Paul Heyman stepped in. No security. No cameras. Just him. He dropped to his knees. Hands clasped. His voice quivering. I was afraid, my tribal chief. I didn't mean to, please, don't let it end like this. Roman didn't move. He didn't speak. He just stared at the man who had once called himself the Wiseman. That moment, captured on a shaky phone camera, sent chills across the internet. WWE didn't officially comment. But everyone knew it was real. The emotion, the fear, the regret, it couldn't have been scripted. Not like that. And the question began to echo everywhere, is this the end of Paul Heyman? Backstage, insiders claimed that Roman was deeply hurt, not just professionally, but personally. For Roman, loyalty was everything. Heyman was not just an advisor. He was family. And to see him choose Rollins, to see him align with the man who represented everything Roman stood against, it wasn't just a betrayal. It was a declaration of war. Some insiders say it wasn't the betrayal that hurt the most. It was the begging. Roman didn't want Heyman's mercy plea. He wanted accountability. Rumors suggest that Roman had already made his decision. That there would be no reconciliation. No return. That the next time Heyman appears in a Bloodline segment, it will be as a target. Meanwhile, Rollins is basking in it. In interviews, he smirks when asked about Heyman. He calls him the most valuable pickup of 2025. He says Heyman is finally back where he belongs, next to power, not groveling for it. And behind the scenes, it's clear that Seth sees this as more than strategy. It's vengeance. Reclaiming the shadow he lived in for years. Roman was always the golden boy. Now Seth has the man who made Roman. The locker room is split. Some wrestlers see Heyman's decision as survival instinct. Others are furious. They say trust is gone. That once you betray Roman, there's no coming back. Jimmy Uso reportedly said backstage, he didn't just leave us. He sold us out. I'll never look at him the same. Solo Sikoa, the new enforcer of a restructured Bloodline faction, hasn't commented. But his cold demeanor during the last SmackDown segment, where he stared into the camera after a match, spoke volumes. As for Roman Reigns? He remains silent. And that silence is terrifying. Because the last time Roman was betrayed, he built an empire in response. Now, with Heyman gone, with Rollins declaring war, and with Seth's new faction tearing through Raw, there's only one thing on everyone's mind: what will Roman do next? The WWE Universe watches with bated breath. Because everyone knows Roman doesn't forget. And he certainly doesn't forgive. But for Paul Heyman, the man who once orchestrated the Bloodline, it may be too late. His fate is no longer in his hands. It's in Roman Reigns, and the next move could change WWE forever. But what if this wasn't just about betrayal? What if Paul Heyman's alignment with Seth Rollins was part of something deeper, something orchestrated from the shadows long before Roman Reigns ever lost his title? Because according to multiple backstage sources and leaked communications, this wasn't a spontaneous act of desperation. It was a plan. A strategy quietly unfolding behind the scenes while Roman Reigns believed his kingdom was still intact. It began, some say, in the weeks leading up to WrestleMania 40. Rumors had been swirling about Paul Heyman's secret meetings at Stamford headquarters, meetings that Roman Reigns reportedly knew nothing about. At the time, WWE insiders chalked it up to business dealings, talks of creative changes, production expansions, and post-WrestleMania shifts. But now, in hindsight, those meetings seem more like premeditation. According to one anonymous executive, Heyman was laying the groundwork for what he called the next era of WWE storytelling. And central to that vision? The downfall of the tribal chief. It's a move that stuns not just fans but veterans of the industry. Paul Heyman has always been known as a manipulator, a visionary, a man with an unmatched sense for timing. But this? Betraying the very empire he helped build? It reeks of either madness or genius. Because in aligning with Seth Rollins, Heyman didn't just jump ship, he's attempting to rewrite the power structure of WWE itself. Think about it. Seth Rollins isn't just a top-tier talent. He's the only man who's ever consistently haunted Roman's rise. From the moment he drove that steel chair into Roman's back 10 years ago, to the present day, Rollins has remained Roman's greatest narrative threat. And now, with Heyman beside him, that threat has multiplied tenfold. But where does this leave Roman? The tribal chief has been silent on WWE programming since the footage of Heyman begging went viral. His absence from both Raw and SmackDown has only fueled speculation. Is he injured? Is he planning something massive? Is this the calm before a vengeful storm? Whatever the truth may be, one thing is undeniable: Roman Reigns is recalibrating. Insiders report that Roman has been seen in private training sessions with Jacob Fatu and Zilla Fatu, two names that have been rumored for months to be entering the Bloodline's next generation. If true, it would mean Roman is preparing for war. Not just a return to action, but a strategic, calculated assault on those who wronged him. Because to Roman, this isn't about gold anymore. It's about respect, control, and revenge. And what of Solo Sikoa? He's been unnervingly quiet since Heyman's betrayal. Once the silent enforcer of the bloodline, Solo has become the face of what remains. His stare, his unpredictability, and his loyalty to Roman are now being tested. Is Solo ready to step into a bigger role? Could he be Roman's most trusted warrior in the battle to come? Sources say Solo has been growing increasingly unstable backstage. One producer claimed Solo refused to be mic'd for a backstage promo and instead smashed a monitor during rehearsals. The anger isn't just performative, it's personal. He believes Heyman's betrayal destroyed what remained of the Brotherhood. He believes retribution must be swift. And perhaps most chilling of all, there are whispers that Roman is not planning to confront Heyman in the ring. No steel cages. No contract signings. Just a backstage meeting. No cameras. No scripts. Just closure. That's what makes this situation so unpredictable. Roman Reigns isn't just a character. He's a symbol of discipline, of ruthlessness, of legacy. And Paul Heyman, for all his brilliance, has insulted the very foundation he once praised. Roman gave him power. Gave him protection. Gave him a throne beside the throne. And Heyman, in return, traded that in for one last shot at the spotlight. But what if Heyman has already realized he made a mistake? Because the Seth Rollins faction, the so-called New Order, may not be as stable as it looks. Braun Breaker is a ticking time bomb. Bronson Reed has loyalty to no one. And Seth Rollins? He is as erratic as he is cunning. Sources say that already, tensions have begun brewing between Heyman and Braun Breaker, who doesn't take kindly to being advised by a man he considers outdated. In the last 2 weeks, fans have noticed that Heyman hasn't appeared live on Raw, not even in Seth's segments. He's been relegated to backstage vignettes and pre-recorded statements. Is this a sign that Rollins doesn't fully trust him? Or worse, is Heyman already being pushed out of the very faction he defected to join? It's a haunting possibility that Paul Heyman, after betraying Roman Reigns, might find himself without a home at all. No longer welcomed in the bloodline. No longer respected by Rollins. A man who once controlled the fate of champions now reduced to whispers in hallways, to desperate pleas in dim-lit locker rooms. And fans are beginning to turn. Social media polls show a surprising trend: support for Paul Heyman has plummeted. Once hailed as a genius, he's now branded a traitor. WWE's YouTube comment sections are flooded with one word: shame. Clips of Heyman calling Roman his tribal chief are now used in mashups mocking his downfall. One video, edited with footage of Heyman groveling and Roman walking away, has racked up over 8 million views in just 3 days. And yet, something tells us this isn't over. Because Paul Heyman may be many things. But he's never been irrelevant. He's a survivor. A strategist. And if he's truly on his knees, begging for forgiveness, it's either because he knows the end is near, or because he's planning something even bigger. Could he be working both sides? Could this all be part of a longer game, one that even Roman hasn't deciphered yet? Or, is this the beginning of Paul Heyman's ultimate fall? As the lights go down on WWE programming and the tension builds, one question echoes through the arenas, the forums, the locker rooms, and the very halls of Titan Tower. Will Roman Reigns forgive the man who betrayed him? Or will he bury him once and for all? Stay tuned. Because whatever happens next, will shake the bloodline to its very core. And now, the WWE Universe braces for the next move, not just from Roman Reigns, but from the entire foundation he once ruled with unshakable authority. Because if the rumors are true, Roman isn't planning to return quietly. He's planning a reckoning. And at the center of that reckoning stands Paul Heyman, once his most trusted advisor, now the man whose name Roman reportedly won't even say aloud backstage. The tension has reached a boiling point. It's no longer about strategy or optics. It's about legacy. Roman's legacy. Insiders claim that Roman has quietly summoned the last remnants of his old bloodline for a private meeting. Not on TV. Not during a segment. But in a secured suite during a recent SmackDown taping. The invite list? Solo Sikoa. Zilla Fatu. Jacob Fatu. Jimmy Uso. All names Roman once trusted, or once ruled over. And that meeting, according to a source who claims to have witnessed a partial transcript of the conversation, was less about rebuilding the bloodline, and more about erasing the infection that weakened it. And at the top of that list was Paul Heyman. What's so terrifying is the fact that Roman hasn't responded to Heyman's desperate plea. He didn't scream. He didn't threaten him publicly. He didn't lay him out in front of an audience. He just watched. That silence has left everyone guessing. Because Roman's fury doesn't come with warning shots, it comes with precision strikes. And when he hits back, it's not with rage. It's with surgical devastation. WWE officials, caught in the crossfire of this real-life drama, are on high alert. Executives fear a public confrontation between Heyman and Reigns might spiral out of control. They've increased security near production rooms and have implemented backstage separation orders. But as we all know, Roman doesn't need an arena full of fans to make his point. His punishments are personal. Targeted. Permanent. Meanwhile, Paul Heyman has vanished from the main stage. No Raw. No SmackDown. Only murmurs. Some say he's been instructed to stay off camera until further notice. Others say it was his choice, that he's in hiding, waiting to see whether Roman's wrath will find him in a parking garage, an airport tunnel, or a private suite. WWE talent has gone radio silent when questioned about Heyman. Roman's name is spoken less and less backstage, not out of respect, but fear. And then came the cryptic tweet. From the official WWE account, a black and white image of Roman Reigns from his 2020 return flashed on the timeline. The caption read, "He hasn't forgotten. He never forgets." No match announcement. No location. No time frame. Just that. It was enough to ignite the entire fanbase. TikTok creators dissected the phrase frame by frame. Reddit threads lit up with theories. Some fans believe Roman is waiting for the perfect moment, perhaps SummerSlam, perhaps Survivor Series, to strike publicly. Others argue Roman doesn't want a televised confrontation. That when Heyman falls, it'll be behind the curtain, never seen, but felt everywhere. Meanwhile, Seth Rollins is playing with fire. With Paul Heyman at his side, he's now the self-proclaimed architect of the new era. He's mocked Roman in promos. He's allowed his new faction, Breaker, Reed, Zayn, to run riot across Raw. And most importantly, he's begun making veiled threats about the end of the tribal chief. "We didn't take the throne," Rollins said in a promo last week. "We burned the whole palace down. And now we're coming for the ashes." Those words may be flashy for the camera, but to Roman Reigns, they are war declarations. And then there's the wild card. Jey Uso. The man who walked away from it all after years of torment and family warfare. Who left Raw, left SmackDown, left the Bloodline, and claimed he was done. But over the past week, cameras have caught him showing up at WWE HQ in Stamford. Security footage leaked showing Jey meeting with Triple H. A quiet meeting. No details. No official statement. But what if Jey Uso is being recruited to return, for one last stand against Rollins and the traitors? Because the Bloodline wasn't just Roman's creation. It was built on the backs of his family, through blood, through scars, through tears. And Jey Uso, whether he likes it or not, was always the soul of that dynasty. A soul that Paul Heyman helped fracture. Could Roman and Jey reunite, not as cousins, not as tribal chief and right-hand man, but as two men with one goal, to destroy Paul Heyman? And what of Solo Sikoa? The enforcer has been quiet. Too quiet. But actions speak louder than silence. Last week, Bronson Reed was pulled from a live event last minute. WWE issued a vague, creative adjustment explanation. But several staffers say it was because of a real confrontation backstage, between Reed and Solo. A confrontation that ended with Reed nursing a split lip and Solo being escorted out of the area. Was that a sanctioned message? Or Solo acting on instinct? Either way, the Bloodline might be preparing to strike from the shadows. This isn't the loud, camera-heavy warfare we've seen in the past. This is something colder. More ruthless. Roman isn't trying to reclaim a title. He's reclaiming order. And the first casualty of that mission is Paul Heyman. Insiders say Heyman's legacy in WWE could be permanently stained. Sponsors are growing uneasy. Executives are distancing themselves. And if Seth Rollins decides Heyman has outlived his usefulness, there's no protection left. Because Seth isn't Roman. He doesn't operate on loyalty. He operates on results. And if Heyman becomes a liability, Rollins will cut him loose faster than anyone expects. But here's the twist. There's growing speculation that Heyman never fully trusted Rollins either. That the moment he extended his hand in that Raw ring, he knew he was lighting a MATC.